Welcome to the Museum of Truth and Lies. I'm your host curator, Yasmin Khan. Writer Subhadra Das joins me to play an adapted game of snakes and ladders. We explore the 6 pillars of truth-telling in museums from my wisdom manifesto. So now we have the excitement of playing the Snakes and Ladders game.
Yeah. Can I just say, I love this so much. First of all, it's beautiful. I love the colours. As I'm sure you were about to tell us, Snakes and Ladders originates from India. And it's this idea of moksha, which is, life happens. And sometimes it lifts you up and sometimes you slide down.
Yes. And what's interesting in the original Indian concept is that it was about transcendence and there was a circularity to it. So it wasn't about an end game.
Yes.
You reached the peak and then that was it. The idea was, as reincarnation was embedded into it. So you could keep going around the board. Whereas somehow, as it's kind of been integrated into the West, the concept has become very much, it's about winning, get to the end as fast as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, there is no finish line. There is no end. Although there is an end. I can see it. It says end at the top.
Yes, I've stuck with the Western convention for this version. So we're looking at a board game I've made. It's Snakes and Ladders with a twist. And in this adapted game, the ladders symbolise truth-telling efforts and the snakes are activities that spiral you into the realm of falsehood.
Uh-oh.
This was illustrated by Preksha Shah from the University of Arts London. She's a recent design graduate. So it's sort of like the checkerboard of peach and lavender with these really cute snakes and ladders. So this is going to be featured in the Muse-Zine.
Right.
Which is going to be a
Great.
resource.
I love that, by the way. Yeah, good.
The Muse-Zine,
Good
do you get it?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Through a process of sort of like tussling, I landed with the wisdom acronym. And each of these letters stands for a pillar of truth. So the W is about whose voice is at the centre of this story. Are they on the margins? Are they on the fringes? Or are they at the centre? The I is about information integrity, like the kind of veracity of content. Has it been peer reviewed? S is for the source. This is about the provenance of the object. D is for the design. In terms of, can you see it? Is it even visible?
Okay.
Can you access it? What's the juxtaposition? Like, how much space is this object given? O is about the object story, because you know as well as I do that curation is an editing process. So you're making decisions and choices about what story, what angles you're giving a voice to. And then the M is about the museum context. So this is about the agenda and mission and values of the museum and how that affects the interpretation. So is it a national museum? Is it a university museum? Is it a private independent museum? All of those things matter. So I distilled it down to wisdom because I wanted it to be memorable, basically, for my own self as well.
I like it a lot, yeah. Very good.
So that's the wisdom manifesto, the 6 pillars of truth-telling in museums. And I thought, do you know what? I could still have more fun with this. So let me try and gamify it. So I did this mashup where I kind of applied it to a board game to kind of rationalise why you've climbed up the ladder or when you land on a snake to kind of explain why you've had to slid down the slippery slope. And then I made these companion cards for each of those. So you haven't seen these cards actually, so it's going to be super interesting to see. So let's actually imagine we're playing the game. I've got my dice here.
I like that.
So choose a counter,
Oh, there's counters as well. Oh, hang on. Oh, this is going to take a minute.
I've nicked them from Monopoly.
I was going to say these are familiar counters. I'm going to choose the dog because that's my favourite.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we'll put the dog on the start. There we go.
And any shape of dice that you want. I've got big dice, little dice.
I'm going to go big dice because that's going to... Or die. Oh, someone's going to write in.
Oh, no. Die. Which die do you want? Not dice.
Yeah, I know. It's just like a little historical note for you. Monopoly originally designed by a woman who wanted to create the game in order to expose the hideousness of capitalism. And she's like, here's why socialism is a good idea. So yet another example of how capitalism always wins out, because this beautiful board game that was supposed to be all about how you build community and how you don't prioritise assets over people became a multi-million-dollar selling board game.
That is super interesting.
Based on the completely
and ironic
opposite idea.
The commercialisation of Monopoly that was intended to expose...
Yeah, she was like, monopolies are bad, and now the US government is in the position where they're just like, oh, maybe they are, actually, yeah.
And it sort of reinforces the elitism as well, because now everyone wants to live on Bond Street or whatever.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's roll the dice, and then we can see... Oh my God, you've landed on a 4. So I'm going to give you...
That's a ladder.
Number 4.
4 goes up to 14. So shall I go up or are we going to do 4?
You go up the ladder.
Yeah.
But then you've got to understand why you're going up the ladder. So this is the reason.
Okay. So the reason why I've gone up the ladder is For 4, your community co-created exhibition wins an award. I'm going to dispute this.
Go on then.
Which award is it? And is it one of those awards where you have to like buy the expensive ticket and go to the award ceremony in order to be even considered for whether you win it or not? And where's the money coming from? And that kind of thing.
So is it a win?
Is it a win though? No, it's just I've gone from 4 to 14. That is what has happened. Yeah, I think already we're starting to acknowledge, because in the game of moksha, you're just moving around. It's a question of whether it's up or down is questionable.
What does moksha mean in Hindi?
It means liberation. So the goal of the game actually is to move beyond the plane of the game altogether and to understand that ups and downs are kind of the same thing.
Fascinating. But it's super interesting that you think a prize is not necessarily...
Depends on who's awarding it.
The incentive to co-create. I mean, it was deliberately provocative. It's like...
Co-creation
we have awards in the sector and they can be divisive. That's true.
This is it, yeah, because they're not applied to everyone equally.
And there's also judges involved who are very subjective.
Correct, yeah. And also, where is this award going? And is it going to the community? Is it money? Like, who's going to get the money? How is it spent? All of those sorts of things. So, yes.
So which pillar of truth was this representing? Flip it over, it should say
it's representing, this is whose voice. Yeah. So who's included. Yeah. And it applies both ways. So it's like you've got your community being included, but it's also whose voice is louder because of where the money comes from.
Let's roll the dice.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. Okay, a bit more sedate. 3, 1, 2. Oh no.
You've gone down again.
I've gone all the way back down, so I'm going from 17 to 7 because I hit a snake straight away.
Here we go. You're going to love this one.
Okay. Your trustees weighed in to censor your forthcoming exhibition because of an artist's advocacy on human rights. Well, that's just a documentary. And shame on all those museums who shut down Palestinian artists because they were scheduled to be presenting work in the middle of a genocide against their people. Yep, that one. Yeah. Sadly, not much of a game, that one, is it?
It's not a game, but it's happening.
Absolutely.
Censorship is a big deal.
It is.
For museums to navigate. Okay, keep rolling.
Okay. At the rate I'm going, I'm just going to end up going up and down the same thing. Okay, 11 is safe. Let's keep going. That was a 1. So this is. I don't know whether you remember this about Snakes and Ladders, but it always took for bloody ever to play.
Okay, let's pretend that you're now on 20.
Okay, yeah, let's go to 20.
To 20.
Yeah, by the way, listeners, this is exactly what happens. Is like, the format gets subsumed entirely because of practical reasons.
So
okay.
Which pillar of truth is this?
Okay, 20 is source, so it's the S of wisdom. And up this ladder is your museum organises the restitution of sacred human remains. Well, again, that's pretty straightforward. I will take that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
So that's definitely
good.
A legit.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Not even controversial. Okay. Oh, 3. So from 38. 3. Right, so I'm on 40. That's another ladder. We're heading into design. So this is under D for design. Your museum gets sector recognition as an exemplar of accessible design. Audiences with disabilities give positive feedback. Well, that's lovely. Yeah, good. Almost entirely unheard of, apart from 1 or 2 examples I can think of.
Well, by the way, in terms of what you can think of, I have some blank ones over here.
Oh, great.
And at the end, I'd love you to nominate
Okay.
So keep thinking.
Sweet.
Okay.
An object mysteriously disappears from the stores. Lose a go. Now, again, I would dispute whether this is bad or not. Because, first of all... if you can find a curator who knows exactly where every single object they're supposed to be taking care of actually is in their museum, I will show you a liar. And obviously this is reminding me of the story of the curator from the museum who walked off with things in his pockets and sold them, which I will point out to you. First of all, in the museum world, I think you'll agree, none of us were surprised by this story, because if anyone is going to steal from a museum collection, it's going to be a curator, because we have the means of hiding the crime. And also, this is what happens when you don't pay people properly for their work.
Do you think he was that badly paid?
If he worked at the museum, I can guarantee you he wasn't paid for his work.
It became quite an addiction, though, no? I mean, we were talking thousands of objects.
Well,
or hundreds at least.
But they're very small. Very small.
Okay.
He didn't walk out with a lot of
But he was quite busy on eBay.
Yeah, where else are you going to sell these things?
But you sound a bit defensive over this guy.
I genuinely don't have a problem with him. But this is what I'm talking about, be unprofessional. Okay, not in the interest of furthering a crime, but yeah, I think ask the question about what it is that leads people to steal. and also ask the question about how there is so much stuff in these collections that even with the curatorial crime of covering up and lying in the archives, it took this long to work out what was happening. Have you heard of the story of the Great Feather Heist, which was the guy who became obsessed with making flies for fly fishing and the old recipes for how you put together these little bits of feather thing that are used to catch fish involved feathers from extinct species or highly exotic or rare species, and he just broke into the stores of the Natural History Museum at Tring, stole a bunch of stuff, including stuff from the Alfred Russel Wallace collection, which historically is phenomenally important. No one noticed for ages that it was gone.
He went to all that length just to catch flies?
To catch fish, yes.
Oh, to catch fish, sorry.
I don't know if that makes it any better, whether it's fish rather than flies. But yeah, but no one, the main thing about that is it took forever for anyone to notice that anything was gone.
I had not heard of that anecdote. Thank you for sharing it. I'll never think about fish in the same way ever again. Or feathers. Right, okay, so where are we moving next to on the board? Okay, so here, you've landed on 54 and you're sliding down.
Yep. Oh no.
There you are.
Okay, so next is information integrity. Under the eye of wisdom. Your new fossil fuel sponsored gallery is blocked by climate activists. Down the slippery slope you go. Interesting. Okay. Museum context. So, a far-right political party hires your front gallery for their gala, causing a media storm. Well, the media storm is the least. Why have you let them do that? Why?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where you're getting these really outlandish examples.
It never happened.
These aren't based in real life.
The museum would never do such a thing.
No.
Ever. So all of these cards are going to be in the museum with the board game.
Great.
It's going to be a feature. So people listening, they'll be able to get hold of it and play themselves and take their time. But for the purpose of time now,
Sure. Okay.
I'm just going to get you to read through some of the cards.
Okay, great. We're on to object story under O. You are granted funding for collections research. You are finally able to interpret medieval objects in the stores to show to the public for the very first time. So yeah, shout out to the Headley Fund in combination with Art Fund UK, because the Headley Fellowships were exactly that. And I was very, very honoured and very pleased to be one of the inaugural Headley Fellows. My time was bought out so that I could actually have time to curate my own collections. What a novel idea.
Funding matters.
Funding matters.
There we go.
100%. Here we go on design. A prominent artwork in the main gallery turns out to be a forgery. Meanwhile, collections from Africa remain in the basement gallery. Well, that's just a description, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Last card.
Last card. Object story. Going down. Visitors complain objects in the Middle East gallery are missing labels. You are too embarrassed to confess their provenance is unknown. Well, they were stolen then, clearly, as well, weren't they? Coming from the Middle East, that's looted stuff. Very easily to say.
So, Subhadra, after playing that game, I wonder if it's inspired any sort of suggestions for these blank cards.
Your new art exhibition about the history of science only includes portraits of white people.
So that's a slithery snake.
Mm-hmm.
Any nominations for a ladder?
If self-noms are allowed, I would say your natural history collection display includes permanent labels about the provenance of your specimens, where they came from, and the indigenous people who collected them.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure of a conversation.
And I'm sure nothing you said to me was a lie.
Not deliberately, no.
To hear more from Subhadra, listen to the dedicated episode in the Imperial Loot Gallery, where we discuss the legacies of empire in museums.